All right, we're on record. Case number 24CV317. Trevor Walker and Michaela Walker on behalf of their minor child, BW appellants versus the Hillsborough City School District Board of Education appellate. The appellant is represented by Brian Lasardi.
Yes.
All right, and appellate is represented by Brian LaFlame.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and I forgot your name, sir.
With me today, I have Dustin Colson from my office.
All right, Dustin Colton.
Colson. Kolsen. Colson.
Okay, Colson. All right, thank you. All right, this is a hearing, limited purposes for allowing the appellant to cross-examine any witnesses that were presented at the administrative hearing in which they were advised at the commencement of it that they could not, and the court found that that's contrary to law and therefore is allowing the appellant to conduct that examination at this time. So, Mr. Lasardi, you have witnesses you wish to cross-examine then?
I believe the only witness that actually testified for the board is Principal Rhodes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So that'd be the one I want to cross-examine.
All right, well then, call him.
I'll call Mr. Jimmy Rhodes.
Would you come up here and you were not sworn in the clerk's office. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, have a seat right there. That's a microphone there. If you would slide that over in front of you to the left, and towards your left. There you go. All right. If you would state and spell your name, please.
Official is James Rhodes, Rhoades.
Okay, you may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Rhodes. How are you?
I'm doing well, and you?
Better, been worse. Rather be fishing today. All right. You are currently the principal at the Hillsborough City School District, correct?
At the middle school building, yes.
And how long have you been principal there?
This is my third year at the middle school building.
Okay. And at this board hearing, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. LaFlame included in his package or documents a notice of intended suspension along with a statement from Mr. Dietrich, yourself, and a couple of student statements. Is that correct?
Yes, that is my understanding.
Okay. So now I guess I first want to know, you talked with Hayden first, correct?
Yes, I believe I spoke with Hayden first.
Okay. So when the students are in the separate offices, according to your statement here, they were given statement forms to fill out, correct?
That is correct.
Did they fill these initial statements out before they talked with you?
The 3 students prior, I spoke with Hayden first and gave him direction to then fill his out after we had spoken.
Okay, so he didn't write his statement out before you talked to him?
He had the paper with him. At this point, I do not quite remember if he had started filling it out before we started speaking or not.
Okay. And you did a written statement for each one of these students for their expulsions, correct?
That is correct.
All right. Okay, so your statement says, students, this is one from Bryson. After speaking with some other boys, Bryson was brought into my office. So who did you speak with?
Spoke with Hayden prior to that. Spoke to Mr. Cumberland in the hallway, escorting him to one of the conference rooms.
So, okay, you said some other boys. So one is, you only mentioned Hayden.
He is the person that was coming directly to my office.
Okay. So you spoke with Hayden first, and then you had Hayden write a statement.
That is correct. Once we removed him from my office for him to complete his statement, yes.
And then you brought Bryson in.
That's correct.
Now, when you brought Bryson in, did he have his written statement ready?
He did.
Okay. And then you asked him, you read it.
I read it first,
Okay.
and then asked him to tell me in his own words what was going on.
Okay. And did you believe his written statement?
Portions of it,
Okay. Did he admit to using a vape in his original statement?
in his original statement, no.
Okay. And did he, when you asked him his version, did he tell you anything different than his initial written statement?
I do not believe so.
Okay. Who was in the room with you when you talked with Bryson?
My assistant principal, Mr. Dietrich.
Okay. And is it true in your statement you said, I told him his story from the other boys was different from his?
That is correct.
What other stories did you have other than Hayden's?
Other than Hayden and then the partial conversation of Mr. Cumberland walking him to the room or to a conference room.
Okay. So when you put other boys, it's really not accurate, correct?
It's more than one, 2 boys.
You're done Mark and Hayden.
Correct.
Okay. What did Mark say?
Mark's original statement walking in were along the lines of his own previous issues that he had experienced before. Didn't want to be part of that mess.
Okay.
And then mentioned the idea of trade.
Okay. He didn't mention Bryson using a vape, did he?
No, at that point he did not.
All right. Did Hayden mention Bryson using a vape in his initial statement?
I'm trying to recall. I cannot remember if Hayden did or not.
We don't have the ability, Your Honor, to replay what the summary he gave. I mean, I can read it, but
I mean, that's not a question, it's a statement.
well,
What do you want?
well, I'd like to replay his summary to refresh his recollection of it.
Okay, you may do so.
Oh, okay. Good. I mean, I don't have it.
Well,
Otherwise,
if you wanted to replay it, then you should have come prepared to do it. If you're not prepared to do it,
All right.
move on.
all right, so I got a statement in there. Hang on. All right, so let's see. Did Hayden claim he went into the bathroom, but he knew he wasn't supposed to be there?
I believe so, yes.
And then Hayden said he was called over by the other boys?
Yes.
And he didn't realize they were vaping,
Yes.
and he wanted to leave, but Dietrich walked in on him.
Correct.
All right. And is that about it with your summary?
I believe so.
Okay. And you did one of these statements for each one of the kids, correct?
That is correct.
All right. Now, is it true in addition to the summary, you left out the part where Hayden says Bryson was using a pink vape?
I do not recall that portion.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Sure.
Just to
Mr. Savage.
This is a statement from HB. And this is as far as he went in his summary. Do you recall what that is?
Yes, that looks like the statement I wrote.
So, do you see this part? Did you put that in your summary?
I included that Bryson and BR were using the pink vape.
Okay, but you didn't tell that to the board when you gave the summary.
I believe that was on Hayden's second conversation, not the first.
But bottom line is you didn't tell the board that Hayden said Bryson was using a pink vape.
I'm not 100% sure whether I mentioned that in the summary to the board or not.
Yeah, I know. All right, so, and you just alluded to a second statement, so did Hayden give two written statements?
Hayden, yes, changed his as well.
All right, did you let the board know that?
I believe that was included in all the documentation.
Actually, it only had Bryson's statements. Two statements, the letter to intent to expel, the suspension.
Okay.
I mean, you saw the packet, right? That was presented?
Yes, I seen the packet the evening of the board meeting.
Okay. So, sticking with Hayden. So his initial statement is that Bryson was in there and he used the pink vape. Is that fair?
In his initial statement,
Yes. The one you just read.
yes, on that summary, yes.
Okay.
It doesn't state initial or secondary.
Okay. Well, let's see here. It's okay. So Bryson and BR were using the pink vape. At that point, he was given a statement form to fill out. Do you recall that?
Yes, sorry.
And then you use this Swab Tech field test kit to test the vapes, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then you notified the SRO, which I think is
Officer Burnett.
Okay. And then he came into your office, correct?
That is correct.
Was Hayden still there?
During the testing,
Yes.
no, I do not believe so.
Okay. And then you tested the vape again, right? The blue Raz vape?
Once Officer Burnett came back or made it to my office, yes,
Okay.
tested it in front of him.
Is there a reason he didn't test it?
That's not our typical procedures.
Okay. Well, let me stop there then. What are your typical procedures?
Typical procedure is that the principal would be the person responsible for testing the device.
Okay.
Once we have, come into contact with one.
Okay. So is there like a written policy on that?
There is not a direct written policy. That is more an administrative procedure that we decided as an administrative team on how we were going to start conducting all of these tests.
Okay. So THC is a drug, right?
That is my understanding, yes.
So what is the middle school's policy with drugs in general?
We are a drug-free facility.
Okay. But if you found drugs in the school, do you have like a canine or something come in?
At this stage, we do not have a canine. Our local jurisdiction provided a canine when they had theirs available.
Okay. So would you call the police if you found, say you're doing a locker search or somebody reported drugs, would you call the police to come in and check it out for you, or do you handle that yourself?
It depends on the circumstance. If we're talking about, someone trying to say that someone's dealing is obviously a different story than someone may be in possession of a vaping device or actual drugs themselves.
Okay. All right. So it's an administrative policy you came up for this swab tech thing?
Procedure, yes.
Yeah. Do you have any other test kits you use other than swab tech?
No.
Okay. And the swab tech states it's a presumptive test, correct?
Correct.
All right. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. In the testimony, you said you've tested like 30 vapes or so. Is that an accurate figure?
Over my career, the number would be much higher. To that point in the year, that number is, to my guess, pretty accurate.
All right. And do you test every vape that you find?
Yes, at this point, we test every vape.
All right, going back to Hayden. All right. So, after you had after SRO Burnett came in, you gave him a written statement to fill out, and then you called him back in?
That is correct.
All right. Okay. And did you again tell him that the statement he wrote was different than the information you got from the other boys?
You're talking about the second time I spoke to Hayden, or?
Yeah.
I believe I did, yes.
Okay. And then Officer Burnett talked to him, correct?
That is correct.
All right. And then at that point you say Hayden then changed his story to say that he brought the blue vape to school?
Yes.
And then Hayden says that him and Bryson went in the bathroom and used the vape, correct?
Correct.
All right. And this would be the blue vape.
That is correct.
Okay. So initially, Hayden says Bryson's using the pink vape, and then he changed his story not once but twice, and then included Bryson on that. Now, in Hayden's original statement, did he say he knew he would be questioned?
I believe so.
Okay. And he didn't want to get suspended again for doing something he didn't do or have?
I believe so.
Okay. And that was his initial statement. And then you had him rewrite it.
Yes.
Okay.
He only read that statement to the He only read that statement to the board.
Right. So, again, you didn't read the full statement of the first one to the board, and you didn't include a second statement. The board had no knowledge of a second statement. Correct?
I believe the summary would have been a combined of the statements together,
Okay.
as opposed to specifically stating statement 1, statement 2, or statement
Okay.
3.
And I guess the nuts and bolts of this is when you presented your side of the story to the board, you didn't tell the board that Hayden said Bryson was using a pink vape. You didn't tell the board the whole first statement that Hayden gave. Then you didn't tell the board that you had Hayden rewrite his statement that then included the blue vape that Bryson is alleged to have used. Would you agree to me that those are key facts that the board did not have?
I think they could be contributing to the overall summary.
Okay. Matter of fact, you didn't believe part of Hayden's statement when he told you that he acquired or stole it from his grandma 2 years ago. You were asked about that, weren't you?
I was?
And you didn't believe that part was credible.
Correct.
Okay. Now, you talked to Bryson after you talked to Hayden, correct?
Yes.
And I'm trying to understand the logistics of how this interview with the boys went. 'Cause
Sure.
It seems like from your initial statement that all the boys came to the middle school office and you put them in separate rooms and gave them statements, and then you went and talked to each one individually.
They were brought to my office to speak with individually.
Okay. So were the students brought in more than once to your office?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
So you interviewed Hayden first, sent him out to rewrite a statement. Did you talk to Bryson immediately thereafter?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe once I escorted Hayden out, then that's when I brought Bryson in.
Okay. That's what I'm trying to follow the logistics here.
Sure.
How you did this. So then, okay. Now with Bryson, you read his statement, you asked him for his version. All right. And then Mr. Dietrich came in the office, or he was already in your office with him?
He was already in there.
Okay. And again, you told him the story from the other boys was different than his. Now, did the SRO come in at that point?
It would have been after that point,
Okay.
because I had done the first tests on both the pink and the blue vape prior to the SRO entering.
So, all right, so let's see, you tested the okay. Bryson then changed his story to say the kids were going to trade vapes.
Correct.
But he hadn't admitted at that point that he used the vape.
No, not at that point.
Okay. Okay, and then it says the blue vape was Hayden's, and he was trading it with student C, which I think is Bentley. I think.
I do not remember between the
Okay.
student A, B, C.
Okay. At that point,
yes,
I asked him to rewrite his statement. After reading his second statement, we spoke about his statement again. He claimed he did use the blue vape. Now, was that in his written statement or the third time you talked to him after his second statement?
Whose statement are we referring to here?
Bryson's.
Okay.
Can you ask that again? I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah. It says, Bryson, you said Bryson changed the story to say that the kids were trading vapes.
Correct.
And Bryson claimed that the blue vape was Hayden's, and he was trading it with Bentley, I think, for the pink vape.
Correct.
Okay. At that point, you asked him to rewrite his statement.
Correct.
Then after he wrote his statement, you said we spoke about his statement again.
Correct.
He, assuming Bryson, claimed that Bryson did use the blue vape that tested positive during lunch.
Correct.
Okay. But in his second statement, he doesn't say he used a blue vape. Correct?
Objection. Your Honor, these statements are in the record, and it does in fact say that. He's just
What I'm looking
he's
at, I agree
suggesting
with
things
that.
for the
I
witness
agree with
aren't
that.
true.
It does say that he used it during lunch.
If he wants to do a memory test about what is on these statements, he could simply have brought them as exhibits to show the witness to refresh his recollection. If he can't do that, he doesn't get to just invent things and to suggest that they are in the record.
I'm sustaining your objection to the point that his quote of the statement is incorrect.
All right. Well, then may I approach to show him this?
Pardon me?
May I approach?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, this is what I'm saying. This is what he said. He didn't say blue vape.
You ask the questions to the witness.
Is this a copy of Bryson's second statement?
Yes, I believe so.
The last line. Can you read that out loud?
Earlier into lunch, we went into the bathroom and I hit it,
Does that say a color?
but does not say a color.
So you don't know what he hit. You're assuming it's one of the vapes, correct?
No. He was specifically saying that Hayden brought the blue one and him and Hayden went into the bathroom and he hid it.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, I went through that. Now, when you talked about testing the vape, what is the straw part that you were referring to?
The straw would be the tube to which you would be sucking through.
Okay. And when you said you stuck the swab down into the straw,
Correct.
how far down into the straw did you get?
Not very far into the straw based on the mouth opening of the straw in comparison to the swab size.
Okay. Check that, check that, check that. He talked about it. They don't use the cane. All right, I'll ask that.
Policy 3201, according to board policy.
All right. Are you familiar with your staff ethics rules?
Staff ethics rules?
Yes. Especially rule number 3210.
I do not remember it by the specific number now.
Okay. Well, excuse me a minute, Your Honor. He said he doesn't really have a policy for the vapes.
He is to discipline according to policy. The policy says to maintain himself. He is to develop.
All right. So I guess you're supposed to discipline students in according to board policy, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And isn't the current policy with drug-related incidents that canines are supposed to be called in?
Not necessarily. It is a can,
Okay.
but not an absolute no.
Okay. And what is do you know what the board policy is for search and seizure?
As far as
Well, are you supposed to use canine detection? when you
Objection,
come?
Your Honor. This isn't relevant.
I would sustain that.
All right. Yeah, we have. Just a couple more questions. I've read in here and listened to the tape about testing for nicotine. You don't test for nicotine, do you?
we use the same cannabis test on vaping devices or other objects that we come
All
in
right, so
contact with.
it's a semantic thing. If somebody says, we tested for nicotine and it came back positive, that means it was negative for cannabis, but positive for nicotine, no?
We do not have nicotine tests
Okay.
or test kits.
So when somebody says it tests positive for nicotine, there's no test for that. It's just it's a negative.
Correct. It would be
Cannabis.
negative on the cannabis
Okay.
test.
That's kind of what I thought.
But he led the board to believe it is positive.
Yeah. All right. So was the board aware that there isn't a test for nicotine?
To my understanding, yes.
Okay. Because I know one of the board members said he was kind of ignorant on the vape issue.
Sure.
And so, like, I had some questions because it was saying positive for nicotine. I'm like, well, so it's like,
Objection. I'm not sure what the question is, Your Honor.
Yeah, ask the question instead of making statements.
did the board members ask you about positive nicotine tests?
I don't remember specific questions about nicotine tests from the board as much as our cannabis tests.
Okay. And if Bryson would have been using a nicotine vape, he would not be facing an 80-day expulsion, correct?
Correct.
And is this Bryson's first offense in school?
For a vaping device, yes.
Okay. And the other 3 students, have they been in trouble before?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
All right. And have you done any formal training using the swab tech stuff?
Yes.
Can you explain your training for me?
Training is directly through Swab Tech, through their manual, through their videos, through their slideshows.
Okay. I don't think I ever did. When you interviewed the boys, Bryson in particular, did you detect any pot smell to them?
No, not to my recollection.
Was there any clue that they may have been intoxicated from it?
No, not to my recollection.
Okay. All right. Oh. And are these on the vape device itself? Is it a refillable cartridge, or is it a sealed unit? You know,
For which particular device?
the blue one.
The blue device, I believe, is sold as a non-fillable.
Okay. And have you had to test them before in school? It was the same kind?
Absolutely.
Okay. What about the pink one?
I do not believe I had that particular brand prior to that, no.
Okay. All right. So you think it was a non-refillable vape, the blue one?
I believe it is sold as a non-refillable.
All right. Does the vape itself say does it say if it's nicotine on the device itself?
Some do. This particular device, I do not remember any markings other than the RAS label that was on it.
It didn't appear tampered with, though.
In what way?
Like somebody tried to, I don't know, I've never used one. Tried to break it, tried to stick a needle in it or something.
It didn't appear out of the ordinary compared to others.
Okay. No, I'm not going to ask that. I don't want to know what his belief is. I don't know. He just says it didn't say nicotine, it didn't say THC. I'm going to ask him 5-10 questions. Did you initially suspect both of the vapes as maybe containing THC?
No, I did not.
Okay. But you test every vape you come across
Correct.
just to be sure?
Correct.
Okay. I don't have anything further than that.
Okay, you have redirect?
Just briefly, Your Honor, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Rhodes.
Morning.
Just a few questions for you.
Okay.
You mentioned that you've been a principal for 3 years at the building that you're currently in. How long have you been in education in total?
In total, I am on year 13, I believe.
Thanks. I believe you also testified earlier that you estimated at the board hearing of testing about 30 vape devices that year.
Correct.
Those tests were all using the swab tech test kit that you currently used in this case?
That is correct.
Okay. How many test kits would you say that you have deployed in your time in education overall?
We would probably be there around that hundreds mark,
Around
around 100 or so, yes.
So you have a lot of experience with that particular test kit.
That's correct.
Does the test kit have instructions that come with it as well?
It does.
Do you find that they're easy to follow?
They are. They're printed directly on the test itself, pictures included.
Can you explain to the court why it is that the practice is to test every device that comes across your desk?
Sure. We had been notified from other school districts seeking information themselves that people were changing vapes or refilling them on their own. Unfortunately, there's even YouTube videos out there showing this.
Have you looked into that yourself?
I have.
Have you viewed instructions on how to do it?
I have.
Does it look relatively easy to do?
Depending on which vaping device, absolutely.
In your experience, have you had other circumstances where you've tested a non-fillable device and it's tested positive?
No, we have not.
This is the first time you've come across that?
That is correct.
I want to make sure we're clear for the court that Bryson admitted to you that he hit the blue vape with Hayden in the bathroom at lunchtime.
That is correct.
He did not admit to you that he hit the vape in the bathroom where the 4 boys were found.
Correct.
He admitted to you that he had done that same day.
Correct.
No further questions, John. Thank you.
Recross?
No.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Stepdown. Okay. So that would be the only witness that was testified at the hearing, right?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so, Your Honor. Yep.
Then that will finalize the record. So the record then will be composed of everything that's been provided to the court, which does include a copy of the recording and then the documents that were filed as the transcript. One thing I've noticed, counsel, is while everybody's in agreement that possessing and using vaping devices and drugs are a violation of school policy, I don't have that in the record. It's the quote, the notices specify the offense as being possession of and use, and it cites Rule 11 and it cites the title, but I don't have the actual rule. So I would like to have that provided as a party stipulate what the specific rule is, so I understand what it is. So since I'm supposed to make a decision as to whether the decision is supported by reliable and substantial probative evidence and is not contrary to law, in order to do that, I have to know what it is. If it were a village or city ordinance or something I could take judicial notice of, but this is not. It's an internal rule, so therefore I can't take judicial notice of it. So, but again, there's no dispute as to the violation if it's true. The facts are true. The evidence is true. It's just but I just to make it clean for any further review beyond this court, I would like to have that attached to your memos. I'll give you some additional time then to supplement your memos based upon the additional evidence today. So 10 days seem enough? Is that enough,
Yes,
Mr. Lasardi?
Yeah, that's not reasonable.
Okay. Just submit concurrent supplemental memoranda. And it doesn't have to be limited to this. If you want to add anything else that's not in the original. I mean, don't be duplicative, please, but, to the extent you have any other research or any other arguments based upon the record, include it. These will be your final brief, and then I'll try to have a decision within 10 days or so.
Thank you.
Mr. Lazzardi.
Your Honor, just, I'm not sure, Ryan, you're aware. We did get a court order in a juvenile court to have the vape tested, and I believe it's being sent or been sent to a lab in California for the
Well, it's not part of the record.
No, but
I mean, it's not part of the record.
Yeah.
It's not something I can consider.
no.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.